Chop, the original Guillotine League podcast. Everything you need to know to avoid the chopping block. Chop is brought to you by GuillotineLeagues.com. Now, your host, Paul Charchian.
Welcome to Chop, the Guillotine League podcast. I am Paul Charchian. My co-hosts today, Matthew Freedman and Thor Nystrom. Thor, I just saw you real life in person. We were at a home league draft together. Guys, home league drafts are the best. It's the best. It's the single best part of fantasy football, right?
Especially if they're at Scott Fish's house. That was something unlike anything I've ever seen before, if I'm being honest. That was incredible.
Yeah, describe it.
In general,
tell people what Scott Fish does to roll out the red carpet at his home league draft, because it's nuts.
This was the first time I'd gone, and when he sort of explained to me how it was, I had to see it for my own eyes. It's like he brings in like this shipping container that when you unroll it, one of the sides, it's filled with TVs, a bar, a lounge. You can put furniture in it. So it's basically like having a living room in your driveway. So he had that. And then Fish also had a food truck come, which was parked in front of his driveway. So that thing was open for business for an hour. Just incredible food. And then, of course, it had a full bar inside this de facto, this sort of makeshift living room that he had out in his driveway. He had 30 people over there, and I don't think one of them stepped foot in his house. It was absolutely brilliant.
No, I never did. And I didn't step foot into his house, even use the bathroom just right there in the driveway. He had 3 different kinds of Old Forester whiskey and a selection of like 8 bottles. It was fantastic.
Oh,
Freedman,
incredible.
what do you do for your home league, assuming you're in a home league? Tell me you've still got a live in-person draft.
All right. So first, I just got to say, I lived in Minnesota for 1 year. And in that year, I was hoping I would be able to hang out with Scott. And we did hang out, but like do a fantasy league. He had talked about this draft, and then it was COVID. And then I moved away and I didn't get to do it. And then hearing you guys talk about it, I'm getting extreme FOMO in part because like I'm not in a league that does an in-person draft. And so I'm in a longtime dynasty league with a number of high school buddies. And like a lot of them have kind of moved to various parts of the country.
Yeah.
And so some of them still live in the Texas area where I just moved back to, like back home in this area. But we didn't get together for the draft, for the rookie draft, because it's only like a rookie draft. And so the thing is, it's like we hang out at other times, but if it's just a rookie draft, it's like, well, this will take like 15 minutes. We're not going to get together for something that takes only 15 minutes. So it's weird to where it's like I'm in this league that I care about, and it's been around for a long time, and it's with dudes I know really well, but we don't get together for the draft. We get together for other things, but we don't get together for the draft.
Yes. Now, YouTube viewers will note I got a different background. This is hotel room background because I flew 1,500 miles to come back for a home league draft. That's dedication right there. So I feel like that's if it came down to this, for some weird cosmic reason, I had to revoke a championship to ensure that my in-person drafts didn't go online, I would do that. It's like you can never win. You can never finish first in this league, but you'll always get to draft in person. Fine. I would take that bullet. Would you guys take that bullet?
I don't know if I go quite that far, but after having gone to Fish's, maybe. To get that invited to the future, right? I might sacrifice. Yeah.
No, I don't like my friends that much, and I like winning. I like winning too much to give
more than friends. You'd rather win than have friends.
Yeah,
exactly. I love it. Okay, I've got one more home league draft question for you two. Then we're going to get into the main heart of our topic today, which is going to ultimately end up being flex level players that you'll be tempted to start but need to reconsider. People who bring their kids to the draft. Now, in the case of the Scott Fish draft, it's a known kids thing. In fact, there's a kids draft immediately following our draft. All the neighborhood kids get together and they all draft. That's a known kids draft. What do you think about people who bring their kids to a draft that is not specifically oriented as a family event?
As the guy who does not have kids, I'm very anti. I'm very against.
Freedman?
It's like It's like Kramer at the dentist where there are no kids allowed and they have adult material out. And Kramer loves it because he can look at some stuff while he's waiting. And then also when the dentist is working on his mouth, he can let the obscenities fly. Right? That's kind of the environment that a typical home draft tends to engender. Right. And so I can definitely see a situation where, like, if you're a parent, you don't want your kids in that situation, right? You don't want them exposed to that. So, I mean, but if, I don't know, people, they have to do something with their kids. I kind of get it. But at the same time, I'm like, why don't you just let this be the carved out time, maybe once a year, once every 6 months, where you can cut loose and you don't have the kids there?
I quit a league over it.
Oh,
I did.
Wow.
I felt like it's, you know what? Because the in-person draft so important to me. And one guy whose name I will not reveal brought his 13-year-old kid because his kid loves fantasy football. Well, get in line. You know what? All of our 13-year-old boys love fantasy football, and a lot of the girls do too. That doesn't mean that you want to change the entire environment of our fantasy league, right? It's a locker room. It's all the jokes. It's the swear words. It's all of the tasteful nudity. You know, do not, when you bring your kid in, even if you think your kid can handle it, you are changing the vibe of the league. Don't do it.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
Agreed.
All right.
The tasteful nudity. Well, it's just a whole bunch of dudes hanging out naked together. I had no idea that Charchian was drafting naked.
It was only during the JJ McCarthy pick, and I apologize for that to everyone there. So
the pants flew off him.
Yeah,
flew off.
By the way, and I do have to say, and this is real. Scott Fish took JJ McCarthy in that draft, and not only that, he called me over so I could put that sticker up there on the garage door. I mean, is what the draft board was put on. So that was quite the honor.
What are the odds we end up talking about JJ McCarthy later in this show when we discuss 9 flex level players you're going to be tempted to start in your Guillotine League this week, but maybe you shouldn't. These are players with sneaky downside this week specifically, players who can get you chopped. And guys, we're going to do this every Thursday. This is like the Thursday show every week is our warning about guys that you might be tempted to start and shouldn't. We need a snappy name for our Thursday shows. And I haven't been able to find one. I've been working on this for days. Flex flummoxers does not work.
Flex fades?
Flex fades? Maybe that's it. Flex fades? Blade Sharpener Thursdays. I like flex fades as much as anything else. Listeners and viewers, if you've got ideas for what to name these Thursday shows, we're interested in what you have to say about this. And we'll get into our 9 players in just a moment. First, this topic, flex fades, brought to you by Xfinity, introducing the 5-year price guarantee. One consistent internet price for the next 5 years, guaranteed. Freedman, we begin with you. The first flex fade of our season is Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott playing tonight against Philadelphia. He's your QB 19. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is a total anti-homer type of thing. I mean, look, I'm wearing the Cowboys hat.
Right.
You know, I'm living like 10 minutes away from AT&T Stadium. I'm a Cowboys fan who's had my heart ripped out with the team trading away Micah Parsons. I'm just seeing doom everywhere. But the Eagles defense, like, it is objectively a great defense. It was fantastic 2 years ago when Vic Fangio was a consultant with the team, and it was fantastic last year when he was the full-time defensive coordinator. I think it's going to be even better this year. That secondary, I think, has a lot of potential. And then, of course, you have a really stout front seven. So the Eagles defense is great. The Cowboys are big road dogs in division. They're an indoor team playing outdoors. Those are small factors, but they add up. And you might think that the Cowboys falling behind is a good thing because it means that Dak will have to throw the ball, but that also just means that the Eagles defensive line can rush the passer without needing to think about defending the run at all. And that's against an offensive line that has a lot of uncertainty. So that dynamic, I think, helps the Eagles defense a little more than it helps the Cowboys offense. And then once the Eagles get out to a big lead, they can control the ball with their run game. And they're going to be doing that going against one of the worst run defenses in the league with the Cowboys. And I know that trading for Kenny Clark is supposed to magically heal the run game woes that the Cowboys defense has had for the past couple of years. But I just don't think that one piece is really going to be enough, especially going against one of the best offensive lines in the league. So I think the Eagles, once they have a lead, they can control the ball, grind down the clock with the running game. And I think that means that you have a Cowboys offense that is on the sideline for a lot of the game, which means Dak can't rack up all of those garbage time opportunities that you're hoping he's going to be able to get. And then, of course, Dak adds nothing as a runner at this point in his career. So, like, he's especially all the more dangerous because really the only avenue for him getting you those fantasy points is through the air game. And if he's going against a tough defense and he's not on the field as much as you think he's going to be, and if he can't really do anything as a runner, there is just so much opportunity for failure. So I see Dak as someone who's like right on that borderline in guillotine leagues of you're starting him. Like, again, I have him ranked as QB 19. So he's right there on that borderline. I can see the case for why you would start him, but I think he's just such a massive liability. I would let someone else start him this week.
Was this cathartic for you, Freedman? I mean, I can feel, you started us out with the emotional detachment from your favorite team, and then you gave us all these objective reasons to back it up. I hope that you feel better having just vented that way.
I feel nothing at this point. I am already in mid-season form as a Cowboys fan.
The Eagles have got those two great cornerbacks, Cooper DeJean in the slot, Quinyon Mitchell out to the side, and really that's probably enough. Those matchups are going to be really, really tricky. The other side, they're going with Adoree Jackson, and I think he's just okay, but still, that in totality, there aren't enough positive matchups on the field for Dak Prescott. I'm with you on that one. Thor, you've got another quarterback that concerns you. Tell us about Arizona quarterback Kyler Murray against the Saints. People are going to be like, hey, it's the Saints. This is a solidly contrarian take by Thor. Freedman, you've got Kyler Murray up at quarterback 9. Tell us why you're more concerned, Thor.
Yeah, I think this could be a surprising bust week for Murray. Last year, Murray finished QB 12 overall in fantasy points per game at the quarterback position, but he was super duper boomer bust. He was top 5 finisher 5 different weeks, but QB 15 or lower in 9 of them. The Saints pass defense, top 10 in the NFL in passer rating allowed from week 10 on last year. They were also, the Saints, top 10 in the NFL in double high safety usage. Then they go out and they get Brendan Staley as defensive coordinator this offseason, who uses double high safety about as much as anyone in the NFL and has for several years. Kyler Murray struggles against too high safety looks. He was number 20 in the NFL last year in fantasy points per dropback against too high coverage. Lastly, this sort of sneakily does not set up as the ideal fantasy scenario for Murray that I think it appears to be on the surface. Cardinals are 6.5 point favorites in a game where the total is only 43 points. I think this ultimately profiles as a low scoring game where if you're Arizona, your main prerogative is to avoid mistakes as opposed to trying to generate explosive plays. And you're to do that, you're going to want to prevent Kyler Murray from throwing downfield into the too high safety look that he struggles against anyway. And do we really think he's going to salvage his fantasy value in this game by running around excessively? Why would they do that in the first game of the season against one of the NFL's worst rosters? To me, this game feels like James Conner for the Cardinals. I'm fading Kyler Murray.
Oh, that's interesting. Freedman, what do you think of the theory that the Cardinals play this conservatively and just wait for Spencer Rattler to give the game away, which is, I think, the concise version of what Thor just said?
I like Thor's take on this in that I do think it's a James Conner game. I think it's a massive James Conner game. I do, however, think that the Saints are bad enough all over the place with a new defensive coordinator, especially, that even if it's not a big Kyler Murray game, he will have enough opportunities for passing touchdowns. But I agree with Thor's ultimate assessment. I don't think they're going to need to rely on Kyler Murray that much, which does mean that his floor might be a little more unstable than you would think.
All right, let's go to our third straight quarterback that we are fading. It's a flex fade Thursday. Flex. We'll get this off. We'll get it ironed out. It's Justin Fields, the Jets' new quarterback against the Steelers. Freedman, this is your quarterback 11, so you've got him squarely in starter territory. I'm concerned. This is a revenge game. And part of my hesitation with Fields is that he's playing against a coaching staff that knows him and his defects, of which there are many, extremely well. There is nothing Justin Fields can bring to the table that the Steelers coaches haven't seen 1,000 times in practices from Justin Fields. And then this week, the Jets lose their starting guard, Elijah Vera Tucker, a first-round talent. The Steelers pass rush ranked number 1 by Pro Football Focus last year, and no Elijah Vera Tucker. They're coming at you with Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, and in the back end, they got Jalen Ramsey and Joey Porter and Darius Slay as cornerbacks, and that's going to be a really tricky combination for Justin Fields. And then, but you might be thinking, okay, no problem. We're going to get rushing yards out of Justin Fields, and you might, but I'll note the Steelers allowed the 4th fewest quarterback rushing yards last year and only 2 quarterback rushing touchdowns last year. And again, last year's not always indicative of this season, but Anthony Richardson had 24 scoreless rushing yards against the Steelers last year. Bo Nix, 24 scoreless rushing yards. Even Lamar Jackson, 45 scoreless rushing yards. And we already know Justin Fields, a very limited passer. As a Steelers starter last year, he averaged 181 yards and 0.8 touchdowns per game. To put another name on 181 yards and 0.8 touchdowns, his average as a Steelers starter last year, that was Mac Jones and Aiden O'Connell as a passer. This puts a lot of pressure on Justin Fields to give you rushing points in this game. And Freedman, I don't know that those rushing points are necessarily going to be enough to salvage your day from Justin Fields. What do you think?
That's fair. The matchup is tough, although I will say it's a hashtag revenge game, and that should give him the extra motivation. But in all seriousness, the floor with him is totally based on his rushing capability. As you mentioned, there's no real passing talent there, and it's a tough matchup anyway. So it is all based on the running. The good thing is that that's basically all that Justin Fields does. All he does is really run the ball. I mean, it's like reminiscent of this. It's maybe 12 years ago at this point, but like just going with Tim Tebow and knowing that he's not a good player and basically still saying, okay, he's just going to run and get me enough production. And I think that the downside, let me think of the right way of phrasing this. I think the ceiling and the floor are really close to each other. And the floor might be a little bit lower than we would be comfortable with because of the matchup, but Justin Fields has a chance to run for more yards than anyone else at the quarterback position this week. Like that is within the range of outcomes. And pretty much guys who run have a pretty high floor in general. You expect to get some passing production from them. You're not really going to get that from Justin Fields, but he still has I think a pretty high rushing floor, which means that I think it would be really hard not to have him in your top 18 this week.
That's about right. 18 for me on Justin Fields. We'll find out. We love dual threat. We love dual threat quarterbacks in guillotine leagues because they can keep us from getting chopped 2 different ways. I just don't think Justin Fields is a dual threat quarterback. I think he's a 1 threat quarterback. Let's go to our next flex fade, and that is Buffalo tight end Dalton Kincaid going up against Baltimore. Freedman, this is your tight end 15. There's a lot of optimism that Dalton Kincaid this year will finally make good on the draft equity that Buffalo sunk into him, but you don't feel great about this matchup in particular.
Yeah, and I will just say kind of in general, I really like this format because I tend to be a wet blanket anyway. And so talking about guys who are a little risky, that just gives me the opportunity to embrace my full wet blanketness.
I love it.
That's Dalton Kincaid right now. Tough matchup going against strong safety Kyle Hamilton, round 1 free safety Malachi Starks. and he's splitting snaps with Dawson Knox. Like that is still happening. And so if a guy isn't running, like I'll just say, we have a great utilization report, the utilization tool everyone should check out at Fantasy Life. And you can sort of go through there and see, okay, a guy who's a high end tight end one, someone you can really rely on, those guys are running, like 75, 80% of the routes. Dalton Kincaid has not even come close to that mark throughout his career. So he's still splitting snaps, playing time, opportunities with Dawson Knox. And Josh Allen, I mean, he's really matured as a player. He doesn't just focus now on one pass catcher. He spreads the ball around. He has little incentive to force the ball to Kincaid. The Bills are home favorites, so they could have a little more of a run-heavy game script than people might expect. And they tend to run the ball now with offensive coordinator Joe Brady. They tend to run the ball with a high frequency anyway, but especially with the high-scoring Ravens offense, the Bills might rely more on the ground game to try to keep that offense on the sideline. And then Kincaid has been hampered by lingering injuries all throughout training camp. So he might be in even more of a timeshare than usual, given that he's still, I wouldn't say he's not in game shape, but that the team might have this idea of like, we need him to just kind of make sure that he's healthy for the stretch run near the end of the season. So he might not get the full complement of snaps that he ordinarily gets. And it's really not all that many snaps anyway. So he's like right on the cusp of that. Do I start this guy type of like ranking?
Right.
Like I'll probably start him in most leagues, and then I'm just going to regret it. Like a two catch 15-yard performance is totally foreseeable. Like that is well within the range of outcomes.
Juwan Johnson is my deep pivot for if you need a tight end that might be available on the waiver wire. If we've just made you nervous enough about your Dalton Kincaid option as well. Thor, you've got Minnesota running back Aaron Jones against Chicago on Monday night as your next flex fade. This is Freedman's running back 22, and he made a big case for Aaron Jones a week ago on Chop, the Guillotine League podcast. Freedman, this is the highest spot among all Fantasy Life rankers. And after Thor talks about this, I'll give you a chance to weigh in as well. Thor, tell us about your concerns with Aaron Jones on Monday night in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, everyone would have him as an obvious start. I'm a little bit more trepidatious about this matchup for Aaron Jones, I think, than others. Charch, as you know, since the Vikings acquired Jordan Mason in the spring from the 49ers, they've been outwardly and publicly stating, as has Jones himself, that it will be split usage and split touches between Mason and Aaron Jones. Mason's touches are going to be the meat and potato work between the tackles and all the short yardage situations, including around the goal line. A good chunk of Jones's touches will come in the passing game where he excels and Jordan Mason struggles. But how many passes in total are the Vikings going to call for JJ McCarthy in his very first career NFL start in a night spot on the road against a division opponent? There were, and then in addition to that, there were only 4 defenses in the NFL last year that allowed 70 or fewer receptions to opposing running backs while not giving up a receiving touchdown to an opposing running back all season. Those 4 defenses, Chiefs, Jets, Browns, and Bears. And then, as to specifically to the McCarthy point, he did not really throw to running backs in college. In 2023, Michigan's top running back finisher ranked 4th on the team in receptions and tied for 4th in receiving yards. He also had 0 receiving touchdowns. In 2022, McCarthy's first year as a starter at Michigan, the top running back finisher ranked 5th on the team in catches and 6th in receiving yards. Aaron, and then to Aaron Jones specifically, he played in 17 games last year, had a career high 306 touches. Part of the reason they want to cut down on those touches, if we buy what the team is selling, that Aaron Jones is going to be splitting touches with Jordan Mason, and that his carries, Aaron Jones's in particular, are the thing that is going to get slashed, then this would appear to be a precarious matchup for him to return value through the passing game. The Bears finished bottom 5 in the NFL in rushing yards per game and stuff rate last year. This is the profile of a defense that Jordan Mason eats for lunch. I expect him to do that, and I think he'll finish with a better day in fantasy than Aaron Jones.
All right, Freedman. Thor took all my talking points, and he and I are really aligned on this. I'm very interested to hear about why you might be more optimistic about Aaron Jones on Monday night.
All right, Thor, I want your thoughts on something, and I can be like a quick sort of yes or no, but do you think that Jordan Mason is going to have more carries than Aaron Jones?
Yes.
Okay. I disagree. And the thing is, I don't know. Like, I don't think anyone really knows. You're super plugged in with this team. And so I definitely respect that. And right now I have it projected as close to an even split, but still favoring Aaron Jones because like we've seen him be a lead back before. We haven't really seen it from Jordan Mason, who I still think profiles as more of like a heavy, pretty much what you've described, like a very respectable number 2 back who gets a lot of valuable work because he gets the goal line work. And so like I will concede the goal line work to Jordan Mason, but I still think Aaron Jones has more total carries than Jordan Mason. I think it's a little more like if you're thinking about rotations, Aaron Jones would get 2 series, Jordan Mason would get 1 series, just kind of like as a general heuristic for thinking about this. And then, of course, the valuable pass catching work. And I can buy the idea that Minnesota might not need to throw the ball all that much against the Bears, but I don't really respect the Bears defense. They have a new defensive coordinator, so there could also be some transitional issues there. And then I think if they do run the ball a little bit more, Sure, Jordan Mason will get a chunk of that, but I still think that means the action is funneling through the backfield, which in some I still think is good for Aaron Jones. So I'm not projecting him for like a massive workload or massive production, but I still think he ends up getting more of the workload than Jordan Mason. And in this matchup, I think that's probably worth funneling into your starting lineup.
All right, Freedman and Thor, for both of you, 10 PPR points from Aaron Jones. 10s at this time of year, we're looking for 10 points. Friedman, do I get 10 points from Aaron Jones?
Yeah, I'm looking at our projections right now. I have him projected for 12. Actually, let me rephrase that. Dwayne and I collectively have him projected for 12.
All right, Thor?
I have him projected for 11.7. So I'm actually a little bit lower on him than Dwayne is.
Okay. All right. By fractions, but yes. So you're over the 10. And Thor, are you under 10 PPR points for Aaron Jones?
Under.
Okay. I'll sit in it. I think it's gonna be very close. It's gonna be very close, but I don't see a pathway for it to be a lot more than the 12 that you're describing.
Yeah. Shout out Matt LaMarca, our producer, who put in our group chat here. He's looking at the prop market. And in the prop market, Aaron Jones has 12.5 for his carry total. Jordan Mason 10.5. So pretty close to what we've projected on the site.
There's a
very close.
From what I saw earlier today, there's a 20-yard rushing discrepancy at the sports books between Jones and Mason, I believe, which I think is way too wide. So for folks out there interested in that.
Also, how about Mason 2 touchdowns in this game against a Bears run defense that was bad last year?
Now
didn't get materially better in the offseason.
Now we're talking.
I don't know what the betting line is for the 2 touchdowns, but I'm interested in that.
You get decent odds on that. Yeah.
I talked to some Chicago media today. They think Jalen Johnson may not go in this game, and that would be a huge blow to that Chicago pass defense as well. All right, let's go to our next flex fade, and it's Pittsburgh running back Caleb Johnson, the rookie. Freedman, I think, has him appropriately ranked at running back 42. A lot of coaches like to bury rookies on the depth chart early in the season, maybe to motivate the rookies or make they don't get complacent or whatever. But seeing Caleb Johnson 3rd on the depth chart was eye-opening for a lot of people this week. I'm nervous about Arthur Smith. Get in line, right? Everybody's nervous about Arthur Smith all the time. I thought we'd go back and look at Bijan Robinson and how he was utilized by Arthur Smith in Atlanta when Bijan was a rookie to try to compare to Caleb Johnson. Now, Bijan was the 8th overall pick in his draft class. So totally different spectrum of draft equity that went into Bijan Robinson as the 8th overall pick. But he was still lightly used by Arthur Smith for the first 10 weeks of the year. He didn't score a rushing touchdown until week 8. He topped just 62 rushing yards twice in the first 10 weeks of the season. And that was Bijan Robinson, who's obviously fantastic. We don't know quite yet where Caleb Johnson is relative to anybody, let alone Bijan Robinson. And Kenneth Gainwell listed as 2nd on the depth chart. I think it's legit. I actually thought Kenneth Gainwell looked pretty good last year. Knowing Jalen Warren isn't the workhorse, I think Gainwell gets some touches in here as well, which will further water down the opportunities for Caleb Johnson. And the Jets' run defense, middle of the pack last year, but generally held mid-level runners in check, including Jalen Warren, who only got 44 yards against New York last year. And if Jalen Warren only got 44 last year, it's hard to project much more than that for Caleb Johnson. Guys, this feels like a great opportunity to just rest and not start Caleb Johnson, even though in Guillotine Leagues, he was drafted. His average draft position was round 6. So he was drafted as somebody you needed to start, but I don't think you can start him here.
It's kind of,
go ahead.
It's kind of spooky. It's kind of ominous when you see RB3 on the depth chart and then it's an Arthur Smith production.
Right.
It just is what it is. And they just gave Jalen Warren that extension. He's obviously at the top of that depth chart. I believe in Caleb Johnson quite a bit. We both like Caleb Johnson's game. But to your point, I don't know that this is the game where I'd want to start him. When we're talking about week 1, week 2 Guillotine League, we're prioritizing floor as much or more than than ceiling, right? And Caleb Johnson, that's an asset that I would be trepidatious about tossing out there week 1, sight unseen with the usage, because it's just too risky.
Just too risky. Freedman, you feel any differently?
No, I think Thor's right. And just to circle back on the Jordan Mason 2+ touchdowns is 1,100 plus 1,100.
Oh,
I mean, look, we got the prop bet finder at Fantasy Life. You just go there, type in Jordan Mason's name, and you can look at all of his props in the market there. That one's really easy to find. 11-1 odds, Jordan Mason 2+ touchdowns.
Like that.
Today's show is built entirely around possible disappointments, but not with Xfinity. Introducing the 5-year price guarantee from Xfinity. One internet price, 5 years guaranteed. Life is unpredictable, but the price of your internet should not be. Get a reliable price with a reliable connection from Xfinity. All in means all in. You get Wi-Fi equipment, you get unlimited data included in one price. This whole episode, again, about disappointment. You will not be disappointed here. No matter what changes in 5 years, the price of your internet stays the same. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees are extra and subject to change. Freedman, let's go to Tennessee wide receiver Calvin Ridley versus Denver and Patrick Surtain. Oops.
Yeah, really, really tough matchup. And I'll just say, I like Ridley for the season. He's a good player, but this week he's on the, I think, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 borderline. It's a terrible matchup against the Broncos. You mentioned Pat Surtain and also Riley Moss. I think that's a really strong perimeter cornerback duo. And the secondary in general is also really strong. And then you look at the offensive situation that Calvin Ridley is in. He has rookie quarterback Cam Ward, who should be better than Will Levis in the long run, but quarterbacks tend to be notoriously unreliable in their first NFL start. So the Titans offense could really struggle. And then you look at head coach Brian Callahan, and I don't think he provides any sort of play calling edge. It's not like a Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan situation where Ridley is going to get schemed open and there are just going to be some free receptions for him. He's going to have to fight for every catch. They are on the road in Denver. And early in the year, before players get fully into football shape, they can really struggle with the elevation. Like, this is a known thing. Teams traveling to Denver early in the year just tend to get gassed. And so you put all of that together and it's just highly negative situation for Calvin Ridley. So it's hard to bench him in week 1 because you might not have any player who was obviously better than him, but the floor with Ridley is just basement level type of low.
Thor, let's move over to this is a buy one, get one. You've got a BOGO for us. Mm-hmm. You've got Chicago tight end Colson Loveland and rookie Burden. So Luther Burden, you're going for the rookies in Chicago. And this is a pretty tough spot here against Minnesota on Monday night.
Yeah, fade them both. Speaking of ominous signs. So first off, Olamide Zaccheaus is the guy who is listed as the starting slot receiver on Chicago's first depth chart, whereas Luther Burden is buried on that depth chart. So I don't even know how many snaps we're going to see at Burden. Loveland was listed as essentially him and Kmet as T1, and when they're in 12 personnel, they're going to be on the field. But when they're not, when they are in 3 wide receiver sets, I believe that Loveland is the one who's getting yanked off the field. Over his career, Loveland took 40 in Michigan career, over his 3-year career, took roughly 44% of his snaps in the slot, played a little bit less than 40% of them inline, but Kmet is a better inline blocker. So just for whatever it's worth, and then Ben Johnson, he used 12 personnel at the 3rd highest rate in the NFL last year. So you have to say that. But even then, that was 32.2% of the plays. With the Lions there, 3 wide receiver sets are used far more often. We'd expect Loveland to be off the field for those. If Loveland is only on the field for roughly 1/3 of Chicago's snaps, I think that's fair.
It's just not
with
enough.
The usage. How much damage can we expect him to do in his very first NFL game, coming out of 3 years in college? The kid just turned 21 years old against a Vikings defense that ranked top 10 last season and fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends. I just think it's a long path for Colston Loveland to return you value there. There will be matchups later this season, I think, that are going to be more advantageous there. This isn't the time to toss him in the lineup. If you're going for a higher floor player, I think there's several tight ends out there that would fit that bill.
Freedman, what do you think about Colston Loveland, drafted in many cases, especially Guillotine Leagues, 18 teams? People drafted him at a position where they needed to start him. What do you think about his startability here?
100% agree with Thor. Rookies are tough, especially early in their campaigns. And then because of the fact that he's got Cole Kmet, and he might not really be the number 1 tight end on that team. And he's on a team that's going to run 3 wide receiver sets way more than they run 2 tight end personnel packages. Yeah, I have Colston Loveland, and I'm kind of a little bit different, divergence here with the other rankers, but I have him at tight end 24, and I'm the low man on him, but I think that's a fair and a reasonable rank. We should not expect much from him early in the year.
Our last flex fade is JJ McCarthy staying with the same game in Chicago Monday night. Freedman, it's your quarterback 25. I think that's close to appropriately ranked. Now, normally quarterback 25, not a real factor for fantasy guillotine use, but there's a lot of quarterback sluffers out there, including me, that ended up with JJ McCarthy as a potential starter. But this is a tough spot for McCarthy. Here he is, the youngest starting quarterback in the league, just 22 years old. First ever NFL start. National television. Now, granted, he was in the spotlight with huge games at Michigan, but NFL's a bit of a different beast. But really, the biggest reason to me, all the tumult among the Vikings wide receiver room. Jordan Addison suspended. Wasn't able to practice with Justin Jefferson for most of August. Wasn't able to practice with his number 3 receiver, Jalen Naylor, most of August with a hand injury. Just got Adam Thielen in. And you're going up against the Bears. They allowed the fewest passing touchdowns last year, just 17. 13 of last year's opponents against Chicago scored 0 or 1 passing touchdown. That's it. The Vikings are going to run a lot in this game. We've already alluded to this during this episode a couple of different times. We're going to see a lot of Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones. They're not going to ask JJ McCarthy to throw his arm out of socket in the very first game. We like JJ's mobility. Thor talks to this all the time. JJ's got underrated mobility. Kevin O'Connell's never used a quarterback that way. He's never had a mobile quarterback. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But the Bears ranked number 3 in quarterback rushing yards allowed just last year, just 13 yards per game. And they only gave up 1 quarterback rushing touchdown last year. So JJ McCarthy will take a week. We like the long-term prospects, but Thor, JJ's your guy. I don't think I'm in guillotine leagues. I don't think I'm starting JJ. I can't start JJ McCarthy this week. Are you ready to concede that?
I almost just walked off set. No, just kidding. I agree with you on this. Over the season long, I do see McCarthy as a top 12 guy, like in my personal rankings. But in this matchup specifically, and with this exercise, we're basically saying, are you comfortable that this person, in this case, is a top 18 option? Like, how solid do you feel in that? And I think it's certainly fair to rank him outside of that, which would be non-startable in a Guillotine League. For this specific matchup, where again, you're on the road in your first NFL start in an outdoor game here, where the defense, the opposing defense, what they struggle with, it's defending the run. And so I think all of the, and you mentioned the stuff with the pass catching core, Adam Thielen just being acquired last week, and he's going to be starting right away for them. All the moving parts with that. If I was making the game script, even though I'm the biggest JJ McCarthy Bobo on earth, I would have a run heavy script to begin that game and just see where it goes. And all that points to McCarthy potentially not being a top 18 fantasy quarterback this week.
Your flex fades have been brought to you by Xfinity. Again, introducing the 5-year price guarantee, one consistent internet price for the next 5 years, guaranteed by Xfinity. All right, final question for you two. And this is I just want a yes/no answer as we're running short on time. And I'm dealing with this in many leagues. Is Chris Rodriguez or Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt startable in Guillotine Leagues this week? I want a one-word answer, and it's got to be thumbs up, thumbs down, yes or no, because thumbs up and thumbs down would be 2 words each. Can't use those. This is a yes or no. Are we yes or we no? Chris Rodriguez, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt.
No.
On both?
No.
Yeah.
On both. All right, We're going to wait and see. I'm with you on this. I would rather wait and see than have to start either one. But in many cases, Bill was drafted as a guillotine starter by ADP. This is going to be a tricky one, but I can't wait to see how this thing shakes out. All right, gentlemen, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you for watching, everybody. And thank you to my co-hosts, Thor Nystrom and Matthew Freedman. We know how exciting Guillotine Leagues are. It's the first week. Do not be the one who gets chopped in week 1. You'll never live it down. You don't even get to bid on anybody. It can't be you, and we hope this has helped make your decision-making a little bit easier for week number 1 of your favorite Guillotine Leagues. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.